Hello. Gonna get started. A little late. Sorry about that. Just having a good time chatting with everybody. If anyone, okay, so I'm Mary Kay. I think most of you know me, but if you don't, what is my job with this organization? I'm the secretary, yes, and the program chairman. And I also work for the City of Newport News in the Department of Museums and Historic Services. I'd like to welcome everyone. A number of you have asked, where is Darcy Terry today? And I don't know. He went on a cruise to Alaska because he has one of his children who lives in Alaska, and he has a couple grandchildren there. So I know that was good for at least a week. Earlier, sometime this week, I had a text from him with pictures of whales and waterfalls and nature stuff. And so I suppose he's still on the cruise, but I'm not entirely sure. He could be just across the street chilling. But anyway, he told me, he said, if you're in charge, get it done. So here I am. A couple other things to tell you. I'm not going to go through all the hoo-ha that he normally does, where he talks about old Warwick and how great it was. And we know that. Well, I'm going to say that that's his special thing to do, so I'm going to let him at the next meeting when he will be back. But today, a couple of quick announcements. One, if anyone is interested in having a lunch, you did not bring one, or you're just hungry, or you want another one of our members, Sharon Mentor, was unable to be here today, and we have her lunch, and it's a ham sandwich. And if you're interested in it, there it is in the box. It's 15 bucks. And it's the brownie and all the chips and everything that comes with the lunch and the beverage. And if not, we'll just take it home. Our next program, I know this is kind of getting ahead of the one we're having right now, but I just want to put it out there so we don't forget. Next month, in August, on the 19th, our topic will be the Spanish Jesuit mission in Virginia. This is going to be a pretty big deal for us. I don't think we've ever had anyone discuss that topic for us before, and it will be someone who has spent years doing archaeological research and has also utilized the book that came out in the 1960s on the topic. So I don't know if any of you know about the Spanish Jesuit mission in Virginia, but okay, I see a head or two nodding. But in the late 1500s, there were 8 Spanish priests, well, a couple of priests and then some helpers, came to this area to establish a Christian mission. And on the way, they stopped somewhere in probably downtown Newport News to celebrate Mass. And then they continued on up the river, and eventually they established their mission more or less in the Yorktown Naval Weapons Station area, it's believed. It's not certain, but based on historical archaeological records, that's what is presumed. And they were there a short time before they were murdered by the natives. So the end of the Spanish Jesuit mission in Virginia. So I'm not going to give it all away. I probably should have told you that they were murdered, but anyway, that's very sensational, and we always like to hear those kind of things because it makes it more interesting, and you're likely to come. So, but in any case, I encourage you to come to next month's program. Another thing, Dawn Worship with Lebanon Christian Church would like you to know that this Saturday and next Saturday, they are offering tours of the historic sanctuary from 1 to 3:30. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see that, or even if you have and you want to see it again, get on over there. And we have some church members here who I know have seen it, and they can tell you how amazing it is. And plus, we've also met there a couple times too. But go on back again and invite some friends. All right, we're off to today's program, which deals with pine trees. And our speaker today is not here. But we have someone standing in for her who is just as good. We were going to have Jennifer England, who is the director of the Ottawa County Museum. However, she is doing poorly. So in her stead, Rachel Pop from the museum, who we all know because she has spoken to us as well before. She's a very familiar face, and one of our favorite speakers is going to do the deed. And we want to just give her an easy time here because she just, I think we just looked at the notes, right, a little while ago. So like, yeah, thanks a bunch, Jennifer. But she's going to do a fine job. And she has such a strong foundation in historical research and education. She studied history at Christopher Newport College, or University now. She minored in childhood studies, and she received a bachelor's in history. After that, she went on to serve as the education coordinator at St. Luke's, historic St. Luke's Church in Smithville/Idlewild County, where she developed a number of educational programs and other things for a variety of audiences. And of course, most of you will probably remember, if you were here, her wonderful program that she gave to us about, it was a cemetery preservation workshop. So, and you've delivered other topics here too, but that was your first one, so we all know you and love you. Rachel is now the curator at the Idlewild County Museum, and this is a petition that she has held since 2022. So she's not wet under the ears anymore. She's had a chance to promote historical awareness and just be engaged with so many types of audiences there. This past weekend, they had something called Hammy Birthday. You know, the museum is the home of the world's oldest ham, and the ham turned 124 this past weekend. And I know you had a sleepover on Friday night where children, lots of children, I was like 49 or some crazy amount, came, and they did not stay the night, fortunately, but they arrived in their pajamas with their stuffed animals, and the animals spent the night. And so kids came, they were tucking them in, and you know, they came back the next day to claim them and have birthday cake and write cards to the ham and all sorts of other fun activities. So Hammy Birthday. So, and that, I mean, every weekend there was something going on at that museum, or several somethings, and tours throughout the county, and just lots and lots of fun stuff. And I'm stealing all your thunder because you're probably going to set all that. But anyway, I say all that by way of introduction to Rachel. And again, we're very, very pleased that you're here to substitute her for her, and I'm sure you're going to do a great and probably even better job. So come on out, honey.
I'm going to try and stand. We'll see what happens, because I got notes and things too. Okay, all right. I'm a little short. Okay.
I'll fix that.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Again, obviously, I am not Jennifer England, so I'm stepping in today. And unfortunately for you, I'm not quite as funny as her, I don't think, but we'll try. All right. But I am excited to talk to you more about pine trees today, and we'll really get into it. I have a lot of fantastic notes and information, and so we're going to have a good time and talk about things like how to eat your Christmas tree. Like how to eat your Christmas tree. Okay. All right. So obviously, I have to start with a shameless plug for the Idlewild County Museum, although Mary already did a really good job. We have several different historic sites in Idlewild County. We're a bit of a hybrid department that works with both the county and for the town of Smithfield. It's interesting sometimes just because the county owns the collection, owns the building, and we technically as the staff work for the town, so it gets really interesting sometimes. But because of that, we do work with a lot of different historic sites in Smithfield and Idlewild County. You can see in the pictures here, we've got our museum, which was once the Bank of Smithfield. We also have Fort Boykin, as well as the signs for Fort Huger, Nike Park, Windsor Castle, which is the house there up on the left, if you guys haven't been there before. And also an image there from Boykin's Tavern, which is over at the courthouse complex. So a lot of different sites that we work with, interpret, have walking tours of, and just like Mary was saying, I mean, we have walking tours almost every weekend, and those are free and available to the community. So if you check out our website, we have our entire calendar for the year, which a lot of museums will tell you is a great feat. It's hard to get everything in line and lined up and out as far in advance as we try to and generally succeed doing. So definitely check that out and just go ahead and highlight what you're interested in and come check us out. We have a lot of really awesome tours and different lectures, programs, all kinds of things. More than we have time to talk about today. And we are known as the home of the world's oldest ham. We did just have Hammy birthday. We had 59 children, I want to say, 49 children, something like that. It was a very high number this year, who dropped off their stuffed animals on Friday night and all got a letter from the ham, or I'm sorry, from their stuffed animal about the things that they did with the ham for Hammy sleepover. And so we do a lot of interviewing them and asking them what their stuffed animal's favorite food is and things like that we incorporate into the letters that they get from their stuffed animal, talking about their adventures overnight at Hammy sleepover. And we also have a birthday party every year. It usually is, I think, about the second weekend in July. We don't try to compete with the 4th of July. So anyway, definitely check that out. It is a lot of fun. We know that it's a little unusual to have hams in your collection. I do mean hams, we have 4. And we really have fun with it and lean into it. So if you haven't seen the world's oldest ham or come to Hammy birthday, you have to check it out. It is just the best time. And that's P.D. Gwaltney Jr. there. It was his pet ham, a marketing ploy that he used, and that's why we still have the ham today. It's technically the oldest edible ham, FYI. We don't eat it though. So. And there's some photos of some visitors with our ham case there in the background, so you can see our 4 hams on display there. And we do have a Twitter, so the world's oldest ham does tweet. I think we still call it Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it now. We're also known for the world's oldest peanut. We don't get to have quite as much fun with this. I always tell people I think it's because there's so many peanut allergies. What would we do for a peanut birthday party? We couldn't have any peanuts there. Anyway, this is our peanut. It was picked in 1890. They picked it, they put the number on it. It was actually used by P.D. Gwaltney Sr., father of the gentleman that we just saw a photo of. And it was used in a lot of his marketing as well. Not a pet peanut though, so not quite as weird and exciting. And here's some images from around the Isle of Wight County Museum. So we have a lot of exhibits. We're always updating things, researching things, doing all types of crafts and activities, group tours, and the like. And we also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have a lot of video series online. These are really a labor of love. There's a lot of work that goes into them behind the scenes. They are fantastic. We have My Isle, which is basically an oral history that we've been collecting just from some of the different members of our community. We sit them down, we try to get them to forget that they're wearing a microphone and ask them a lot of questions about growing up in Smithfield and Isle of Wight County. And then we also have the Behind These Walls series as well, and a couple others as well. But Behind These Walls is really neat. If you've ever looked at some of these historic houses and said, man, I wonder what it looks like inside, we get to go in sometimes with the help of some of these different property owners and learn more about the history of their historic house and their historic site, as well as get to do some additional research, and we include that in that as well. So that is a really fantastic series and a great way to learn more about some of the different historic sites in the area. Okay. Thank you. And there's our website. And we have, I swear, a little bit of everything. We've got Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube channel. Just check us out. And now we're going to get right into it. Barking up the right tree. All right. Obviously, this is not a tree. This is a picture of a hog. And hogs are considered some of the best colonists here in Virginia, just because they go feral very quickly and they do very, very well here. One of the big things that the English are going to be searching for and trying to establish and endeavor to do here in Virginia is find ways to use the natural resources. And that's what we're really going to get into with our discussion of pine trees. But hogs in particular, fantastic colonists. They go feral very quickly. A lot of times we have hog islands. In Iowa County, for example, the hog island there is up near where the Surrey power plant is now. And they reproduce quickly. They establish natural herds here very quickly. I think I did do a program on this maybe at one point here with you guys, but basically just do very well here. A lot of those different livestock are being brought over. And so they're trying to establish natural herds here, and that's a lot more difficult with some of the other livestock. All right. Which, of course, with our ham history in Smithfield, we love that hog history and how well they do as colonists here. The New World contained iron ore, gold, silver. The latter attracted a lot of European colonizers. Fertile soil facilitated the production of cash crops like tobacco, and abundant trees provided vital timber resources. Again, really looking for those resources. These resources significantly influenced the colonial economics and European wealth during the age of exploration. All right, there are two major groups of trees in North America, hard and softwoods. You can see some of the examples of the hardwoods and softwoods there. Beech, oak, ash, and teak for the hardwoods, and pine, spruce, cedar, and fir for some of those softwoods. Common pine species of North America. Again, we can see some different examples and see a little bit of variation of how some of them look a little bit different. So we have the eastern white pine, the longleaf pine, which we'll definitely be talking more about, the sugar pine, loblolly pine, western white pine, and ponderosa pine. We also have some common North American oak trees, the black, the pin, southern red, northern red, chestnut, fir, Oregon white, and white oak. And some common maple trees in North America as well. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about a lot of the very specific types of trees that become very important to the colonists, but just going over a little bit. All right. I did not do that cool color change. That's neat. Anyway. All right, common maple trees. We've got the sugar maple, red, silver, box elder, and big leaf maple trees there. And again, we can see a little bit of the variation a little bit to the different leaves and things as well. All right. And here we've got the American beech tree. This is the only variety here in North America. The colonists prized the abundant eastern red cedar for cabins and tools, aka the Virginia juniper. Native Americans built canoes from large trees, and we can see our dugout canoe here that is on display in the Iowa County Museum. We did kind of pester the owner into finally giving it to us. It used to be, if you all have had dinner at Warfield Brewing down the street from us, it used to be on the wall there. So if you haven't been into the museum, you may have visited the dugout canoe here previously. Why were trees such a big deal in the New World? Well, timber storage in Europe by the 13th century and elsewhere in Europe, there's a lot of timber shortage, okay? So again, talking about those resources, they're trying to establish some of those natural resources here. And by establish, I mean obviously the trees are already growing here, but even things like bringing over honeybees. At one time, there's actually an attempt to establish silkworms here as well. That one wasn't quite as successful. But honeybees and some of the other livestock and things that are brought over, all attempts to try and really use the natural resources and use the space here. By the late 1600s, England had few forests left that could provide suitable trees for the giant masts, support timbers, and lumber for their growing Royal Navy and merchant ships. So it becomes very, very necessary to try and find other ways. This also plays into a little bit of the mercantile system and how mercantilism worked. Basically, the wealth of the empire was part of the power of the empire, and so you didn't want to basically buy natural resources from other competitors to a certain extent. That's why we really see a rise in colonization and this kind of imperialism of establishing colonies. It's an attempt to basically get some of these resources without purchasing them from enemies. And in doing so, giving up power. That's the way that the system is viewed at the time. All right. This is an image of making iron, mining, smelting, and smithing. It requires fuel in the form of lumber. Most early American ironworks extracted the iron ore from bog iron deposits, which were large nodules of quite pure iron that forms along the roots of plants in boggy areas. These were used for cannons, cannonballs, nails, cookware, anchor chains, musket barrels, and more. As trade began to develop from the colonies back to England and to the Caribbean, we see a lot of different ships and products. And we can see some here. Let's see, we've got some sugar cones there, coffee beans. That's actually a tea brick down here in the bottom left, as well as some liquor trade as well, and different things like that. Over here on this side, we also have some wood shingles, again talking about just the different natural resources. There's some tobacco plants there, as well as some hanging hands and a photo of a piece of a tree there. All right. And then you guys have probably seen this image many a time before, but this is an image of that triangular trade of some of the different trades. We can see tobacco, meat, grain, and lumber from North America is going to Europe. We see a lot of textiles, guns, and other manufactured goods that go from Europe to Africa, and then enslaved sugar, molasses from the West Indies to Virginia and other parts of North America. It is simplifying the map a little bit, but certainly one that we see quite a bit. All right, what types of pine trees grow in Virginia? So in Virginia, we have loblolly, shortleaf, white, and Virginia pine. Those are the most common and the most commercially valuable. All of these pines are sun-loving trees, so they grow best when they have full sunlight. Virginia is approximately 25.5 million acres in total area. In 1607, forests in southeast Virginia were dominated by longleaf pine, occupying between 1 and 1.5 million acres. Most longleaf forests existed south of the James River, but the species range extended north to Accomack County on the eastern shore. Longleaf pine and the Virginia pine. The longleaf pine is a crucial part of early Virginia's economy. Longleaf pine was used to make masts, turpentine and pitch for the naval stores industry, also used to build the frames and floors of colonial homes and businesses. Virginia pine is a small native tree with twisted needles and small cones that stay on the tree for years. Virginia pine is often found in old fields or poor quality sites. It's primarily grown for pulp and used for reforestation. A lot of this has to do with how fast or how slow the trees grow. The longleaf pine does grow very straight and very slowly, and therefore also grows just a very, very strong, straight tree for masts and things like that. Virginia pines grow quickly and live 65 to 90 years. As the Virginia pine's lower branches die and fall off, they often leave stubs. The tree seen whole may thus strike the viewer as looking scrubby and unkempt. We can see some of those in the background here. Colonists felled trees for use as fuel, construction, and shipbuilding materials, barrels, shingles, and staves. And coopers made barrels and basic furniture. We can see a cooper there on the left. Joiners made floors, doors, furniture. There were cabinet makers, carpenters, hewers, sawyers. So in colonial America, we have a number of craftsmen associated with that lumbering business. Or as Jennifer put in her notes, the lumbering biz. the primary shipping containers in colonial Virginia, including the hogshead, which we can see there, is definitely going to be one of the barrels that there are a lot made of as we start to get into our tobacco-based economy. All right, naval stores. We're always throwing around the word naval stores. It really covers a vast majority of goods that come from the actual processing of these trees. So it's not just the wood for masts and things like that, but also the tar, pitch, the resin basically, and turpentine that come from the actual processing of the pine tree. Ships made of wood required a flexible material insoluble in water to seal the spaces between the planks, so pine pitch was often mixed with fibers like hemp to caulk spaces, which might otherwise leak. So it was used to help waterproof a lot and weatherproof a lot of the portions of ships to make them seaworthy. All right. And this is some of the boxing that's done for resin. We can see here that they do remove the bark. You can see that, I know it's a little bit fuzzy, but you can see that they have removed the bark from a portion of the lower part of the tree. They scrape it for resin and use the resin to make turpentine, again, for waterproofing. It also repels fleas and can be used in medicine as well. And it also was an industry that did exploit a lot of enslaved labor as well, which is important to know. About 60% of naval stores from North Carolina came from North Carolina, and the rest pretty much came from Virginia. In 1720, the English Parliament enacted a bounty to encourage the industry because Great Britain's dependence on its naval trade necessitated many, many ships. North Carolina, this is a North Carolina turpentine distillery from 1884. So we can also see it's a very long history of naval store production here. And then they were exported to Europe. And again, we can see some of the different prep. They're putting things in barrels and preparing to ship out. Naval stores are still in demand to a certain extent today. They're used in soap, paint, varnish, shoe polish, lubricants, linoleum, roofing materials, paper sizing, surface coatings, and adhesives, just to give a short list there. From 1700 to 1840, the production of naval stores in Virginia peaked. Norfolk exported 29,376 tons in 1791. I'm going to say that again because that is a lot. 29,376 tons in 1791. In doing so, they do start to deforest the longleaf pine here, which is intimidating and somewhat impressive because, again, they're doing it by hand. None of the big machines that we have today. By 1850, the Virginia longleaf pine was an exhausted resource. Only 5 remnant populations of longleaf pine trees remain today. They are located in Suffolk, Chesapeake, and of course, Isle of Wight County. We are specifically working on a project right now in our community that is at Windsor Castle Park. So if you guys go out there, you'll see there's some very young trees there that are part of the project to help reestablish the longleaf pine in Isle of Wight County. By 1893, the longleaf pine is all but extinct. Scientists found a small stand in Zuni and began a regrowth project. In 1938, Harvard University botanist Merritt L. Fernald, I'm sorry if I butchered this gentleman's name, spent time in Isle of Wight County conducting floristic surveys. At a location south of Zuni, he discovered and documented a remnant stand of longleaf pines growing along the Blackwater River. Some 60 years later, surveys by Virginia Department of Forestry have identified fewer than 200 individual mature longleaf pines believed to have originated prior to 1950 and existing in natural, not planted, stands. These few trees are all that remains of Virginia's original longleaf pine forest, which again, impressive and very intimidating. Just the amount of deforestation that was, again, done by hand. In the early 2000s, the Virginia Department of Forestry and partners including Old Dominion University, the Nature Conservancy, and Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation developed a plan to bring longleaf pine forests and seedlings are grown for use in reforestation projects, like the one that I mentioned earlier at Windsor Castle Park. And here are the pine cones. There's one of the sections out at Windsor Castle Park. It does look a little bit bigger and better than when this photo was taken. All right. Around the same time as the peanut industry in Smithfield, timber growing was growing in the opposite end of the county. So we can see the Peavey Camp and Union Camp Corporation here. The Camp brothers founded the Camp Manufacturing Company in 1887. They purchased a sawmill just outside of Franklin and began logging on the east bank of the Blackwater River. As they expanded, the brothers acquired 240,000 acres of land in Isle of Wight, Southampton, and Nansemond counties for timbering. By 1949, the company had grown to 4 large logging trucks, and preparations were underway to build a new sawmill. Further additions to the company included the manufacture of paper, brown paper packaging in 1938, and bleached paper by the 1950s. In 1956, with heavy competition and economic difficulties, the company merged with the Union Bag Company to form the Union Bag Camp Paper Corporation. And we can see all of the different ways that lumber was transported around the Iowa County area, by water, by truck, and by train. And we can see there the Camp Manufacturing Company listed on the side of the train there. The pine tree was a symbol of wealth and power in the colonial era and was associated with a few things. White pine axe. A valuable resource for the colonies used for interior and exterior applications such as siding, cabinets, and flooring. The white pine axe were a set of laws that restricted the harvesting of white pine trees, but colonists resisted this in various ways. We can see some of the acts listed here. In 1691, we have the Massachusetts Bay Charter. In 1711, there's another White Pine Act, which extended the restrictions to all of New England. 1722 Act, as well as the 1729 Act also. Pine tree shilling. This is a colonial coin with a pine tree on the inverse to represent the export of tall timber for British ships' masts. This was minted around 1670, but kind of interestingly, most of them bore the date of 1652, possibly to commemorate the founding of Massachusetts, of the Massachusetts Mint, or a way to deny illegality, if the monarchy were reestablished, because at that point Charles had been beheaded. This was an early attempt to create a stable monetary system in the colonies, reflecting the growing need for local economic independence. There is actually a molasses cookie recipe for pine tree shillings. So this is a cookie called a pine tree shilling, and unfortunately the evolution of the recipe is lost to time. An act of resistance to British royal authority undertaken by American colonists in New Hampshire in 1772, placing among the disputes between the Crown and the colonists that culminated in the American Revolution, was the Pine Tree Riot. In 1722, it became illegal to cut down eastern white pine trees larger than 12 inches in diameter in New Hampshire in order to reserve them for use by the Royal Navy for their masts. This law was not strictly enforced until 1766, when the governor began enforcing it and cracking down. The riot was a test of the British royal authority, which is partially evident by the light fines exacted against the rioters. So they only ended up receiving light fines. By demonstrating that British rule was defiable, it is believed the riot helped to inspire the Boston Tea Party. tree flag. There are multiple versions that exist. This was flown during the American Revolution and inspired by the Pine Tree Riot. And it's a symbol of opposition to tyranny. It was used by a squadron of 6 schooners who commissioned under George Washington's authority, with him as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, beginning in October of 1775. Scurvy. The Native Americans taught the colonists how to make a tea from white pine to treat scurvy, which was a common illness among the settlers. So we're getting into a lot of the interesting different uses for our pine trees. Let's eat a tree. All right. Yep, Bill Gibbons. He became nationally famous back in the mid-70s while promoting grape nut cereal with his quote, "Ever eat a pine tree? Many parts are edible." All right. And tree sap versus tree resin. Maple syrup, we know all about this. All trees produce sap to a considerable degree, but resin exists in the family of trees like pine, fir, and cedar trees. All right. Okay, this is our cautionary statement, okay? Before you eat your tree, do your research. Cedar and cypress are inedible. Please don't eat your cedar and cypress tree, all right? This is our disclaimer today. Yew trees can be mistaken for Christmas trees and are very poisonous, so please make sure that you know a lot about your trees before you eat them, especially since we're getting into the eat your tree portion, all right? Pine, fir, or spruce are safe to eat, but be aware that the needles are sharp and be aware of where your trees come from still. Right? We've got to be careful about pesticides and all kinds of things. The truth is that all parts of certain pine trees, including the pine cone, are indeed edible. But who would want to eat a pine cone? Best of luck to you. I will not be eating my pine cone when I get home. But technically, pine cones, needles, the inner layer of the pine bark, resin, pine pollen, and pine nuts are all technically edible. All right, not pine, but juniper berries come from cypress. They are a component of gin and herbal remedies and meat dishes a lot of times as well. Pine nuts are used for cooking. This is an Italian stone pine cone. Unfortunately, I don't have more information on that, I'm sorry. Pine nut cookies. Okay, we're getting into some of the different things that you can eat with the different pieces of your pine cone and pine tree. There's a pine bark bread that was a popular Scandinavian tradition. This is a cured fish, which was often cured with sugar or salt. We can see some pine needles there in our vinegar. And here is gin and pine. We can see here that you actually use a green pine log. You end up splitting it into fine splints about the size of a cedar lead pencil. Take 2 ounces of the same and put it into a quart decanter. Fill the decanter with gin and let it soak for 2 hours until the gin is ready to serve. This is an 1862 recipe that again uses a pine log. Here we have some pine cone jam. And some pine needle biscuits. Pine needle tea is often used as a home remedy as well. And there is a whole book on how to eat your Christmas tree, which is why I joked about that earlier. So if you want to learn more, there is a book. It's by, you can see there, Julia Georgalis, and it's literally called How to Eat Your Christmas Tree. Delicious, innovative recipes for cooking with trees. All right, and then we have some photos here out at Windsor Castle, out in nature, and all the different things that we do again at the Isle of Wight County Museum. We do a little bit of everything, including excitedly talking about especially the longleaf pine tree. All right, and this is older, so don't mark your calendars. And that's it. All right, I know we just covered a lot of slides and a lot of history. Is there anything I can attempt to answer for you guys? Yes.
With the lack of colonies pines, are they federally protected?
I don't believe that they are technically protected. I would have to double check that. But I think that honestly, you wouldn't really find longleaf pines available in any real capacity right now to be able to cut them down. They're really the reestablishment of some of these trees. I mean, there's like one very small copse of trees that was found in Zuni, and other than that, there's just not a lot of them. But as far as what the protections are here in Virginia, I would have to double check. I'm sorry, I found out I was doing a lecture late last night, so. Yes?
Rachel, I just wanted to clarify on the slide where you have the tree acts.
Where I have the tree?
The tree acts.
Mm-hmm.
Those were imposed by Parliament as opposed to local legislators?
Yes, so basically a lot of these acts are part of what we think ends up ultimately, and then the Pine Tree Riot are what lead up to the American Revolution. So those are in part imposed by British Parliament to try and basically conserve natural resources for the British Navy. But obviously it doesn't work out super well. A riot ensues, and there's some belief that that does end up kind of showing that there is some protest. If there are some things you can do to protest available to the colonists over here. Yeah. Yes.
2 questions.
Okay.
The first, that Walking story, isn't that the Luda, the modern day Luda story with the Smithfield Packing Company?
So Gwaltney's does get consumed by Smithfield Foods, but technically P.D. Gwaltney Jr. is not related to the Luders. But the Luder family is still somewhat active in Smithfield.
Well, they stole the recipe and kept moving with the project. So
There were
that was number one.
Yeah, there were a lot of ham companies, and they all had very similar and different recipes that were passed down through generations and things like that. It's really convoluted trying to even go through what happened to all these different ham companies and the families and things like that too.
Okay, so that makes me have 3 questions.
Okay.
Isn't that peanut story that you're telling tied to that historical hospital that's over in?
That would be, I think you're talking about Obacy,
Yeah.
and that's a separate peanut business, peanut company. The peanut industry in Smithfield actually has what we call the Great Peanut Fire in 1921, and basically all of the packing plants and a lot of the businesses down along the waterfront, they actually ended up burning down. Thankfully, the fire started really early in the morning, and so there was no loss of life, but it was a pretty drastic fire, and at that point in time, basically trains had become a lot cheaper way to send a lot of the peanuts and things like that out, and we were still using our waterways, which was not the most cost effective and fastest. So we think that's part of kind of the decline there and why they don't rebuild the peanut industry in Smithfield.
My last question.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys built your new courthouse, you found a code inside of the courthouse. Code, C-O-V-E.
Okay.
You guys ran the article in our newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
the press, but it wasn't ran in the Virginia Power for whatever reason. I communicated with the clerk of court, which was Ms. Jones at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The code was a private or pirate's word for a trunk.
Okay.
We got Ms. Jones to copy everything that came out of that code, and we put it in the Newsom House, in Newport News. My question to y'all, what did y'all do with y'all?
I don't know about that. I'd be really interested to read more about it.
What happened with that code?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Original papers
Mm-hmm.
that was found in your courthouse.
Yeah.
And we had enough sense over here in Newport News, because we love our licensing to ask them to send us a copy.
Yeah.
So we have a copy
I'd be interested to see some
in
of
the
that.
Newsom House.
Yeah. So it was kind of during the construction of the courthouse?
Yeah, I want to know what y'all did with y'all, because y'all have the original copy. So wherever Ms. Jones is, that was y'all former clerk of court.
Well, so we do still have the Randall Booth Research Room, and all of the records should still be in there. So we didn't send any of our records to Richmond or Richmondburg or anything like that. But as far as like the Isle of Wight County Museum, I don't think we have any of that stuff, but I can always look and see what we've got.
Fanny Jones, she was your clerk of court, couple of clerks back, and wherever she is, she can tell you exactly what happened or what that paperwork is, because the Jones family and the Harris family, we communicate.
Yeah,
And we love each other. So we want to just keep everybody honest.
that sounds cool. Yeah,
Right. Find that
we
paperwork.
would love to hear some
And
more
I
about
want
that.
to get your card for you.
That sounds good.
I'm
pretty
here
sure I
to
have one.
I'll be the visitor over there.
All right, sounds good.
Right.
All right, any other questions? I saw some other hands. Yes.
I
Yes.
have a comment. When my parents had our home, we go to Wisconsin, you know, my bedroom had a closet that was cedar one. It didn't smell. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool different wood features and things like that. I mean, like I said, they were doing a lot of different stuff. And even today, I think it's just amazing really amazing, kind of in a bad way. Obviously, we almost lose the longleaf pine, but amazing how many trees they managed to cut down. Truly.
I got a question.
Let me get the gentleman in the back real quick and then
And there was a hardback book written about the lumber industry in Surrey County. It's quite interesting. Not only did they go in there and cut the lumber, but they built railroad tracks in there, and they established a lot of communities in there. It's a very nice book.
I'll look, we might have that in our library, to be honest with you. We definitely have a couple of awesome resource books that talk about the lumbering, both in Isle of Wight County, Surrey, and surrounding counties. So I might have that one. I'll have to look and see if I can figure out which one you're talking about. Do you know what it's called? Do you know what the title is? It's called The Company? Yep, we've got that one. Yep. I was poking around in it the other day.
But they loaded it on ships down at the ferry docks over there in Surrey now, and took it to Baltimore.
Yeah, there was some of that going out of Ferguson's Wharf, I think, in White County as well. So yeah, definitely a lot of lumbering, and we do have that book because it very much covers a good portion of the area as well.
Yeah, I know they make turpentine out of, I guess, the pine, either the sap or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of times it was out of, they pulled sap, resin, and then
Well,
just
what would you use
overall
that for,
processing.
for food?
For turpentine?
Yeah.
Turpentine a lot of times was used to help help make stuff a little bit more waterproof and weatherproofing. You wouldn't necessarily use you would use
use that for
turpentine.
food, you didn't? Okay.
No. Yeah, but just like they're trying to use all of the animal, they're trying to use all of the tree as well.
yeah.
We even see, we didn't get into it here, but a lot of especially the longleaf pines, they're called that because the needles are so long. So they were really great for basket making and basket weaving and things like that too. And the Native Americans definitely did a lot of different crafts baskets and things like that. And again, trying to use as much of the tree as possible. Yes, as much of the resources as possible. Yes.
With the medical applications, we've been all the way back to the Native Americans.
Yes, yeah. One of the big things was the treatment for scurvy. So it helped with the treatment of scurvy, but it does go back to learning from either copying or learning directly from the Native Americans. Yeah, they're learning a lot or copying a lot as well, depending on how the relationship is going at the time. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Your area where your museum is that the area where Benedict Arnold or somebody was sitting on that bench?
We do have a bunch of the statues there, but one of the things that's interesting is we've been looking, we've been doing a lot more with because of the VA 250 and the American 250, we've been doing a lot more with the history of the American Revolution in Isle of Wight County, and Benedict Arnold does camp out in Pierceville, what was known as Pierceville along Main Street at one point. So there's some interesting history with that too. That's before he marches south to try and capture Portsmouth and does successfully mess with operations in Portsmouth. All right. Anything else? Okay. Thank you guys so much for having me. And
right, now we have a special treat. I hope some of you will come up and try and pine tree tea, except it's dandelion.
Sorry guys, I couldn't get the pine tree, the pine needle tea in today, so we do, I'm sorry, I did the second best I could. We've got dandelion tea today.
So come on and have some. It's up here. We have hot water. There's a little scoop in the bag, so just put some in there, the sweetener or whatever it might be. Any brave souls here. Believe me, it does not have any pine needles in it. So you're safe. So just come and try it if you're game to. And thank you again, Rachel. That was wonderful. You're amazing. Just on the fly. You don't even know the subject, and you're an expert, and you handled the Q&A marvelously. Thank you.